Hello everyone. So today we will start with the second material or the second exam material for this semester, which is the clause. The clause is a word group that contains a verb and a subject, and that is used as a sentence or as part of a sentence. So mainly the feature that you can recognize the clause from anything else is that the clause consists of a subject and a verb. So you have subject-verb combination. That's why you can use it alone as a sentence. So this is the main difference between the clause and the phrase. A phrase can't be used as a sentence. Why? Because it doesn't contain a subject-verb combination. While a clause contains a subject-verb combination, that's why we can use it as a sentence. Types of clauses. We have independent clause, we have subordinate clause. Now for the subordinate clause, we have three types: noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. An independent clause, it's the one that expresses a complete thought and that can stand alone in a sentence. So this is the main difference between independent and subordinate clauses. An independent clause, it has a subject and a verb and a complete thought. That's why we can use it alone as a sentence. While dependent or subordinate clause, it has a subject and a verb, but it doesn't have a complete thought. That's why we cannot use it alone as a sentence, and that's why we have to join an independent clause with it in order to complete the sentence. So, for example, when you say, I sleep when I am angry or tired. When you say I sleep and stop, this is a complete sentence. It consists of a subject and a verb. I sleep. And this is an independent clause, okay? But when you say, I sleep when I am angry or tired, when I am angry or tired, if you want to use it alone as a sentence, it wouldn't be correct, okay? Why? Because you have it as a subordinate clause. You have a subject, you have a subject which is I, you have a verb which is am, but you don't have a complete thought. That's why when I am angry or tired, this is a subordinate clause. That's why we added I sleep, which is the independent clause to continue or to complete its meaning. And that's why, of course, we can't use when I am angry or tired alone as a sentence. Why? Again, because it's a subordinate clause. We have many types of subordinate clauses, like an adjective clause and an adverb clause. An adjective clause, it's a subordinate clause that modifies a noun or a pronoun. Okay? It is introduced by a relative pronoun. So put it in your mind. The adjective clause, it is introduced by a relative pronoun like that, which, who, whom, and whose. So for example, when you say, the girl who is leading the parade is my best friend. So, who is leading the parade? You have a subject. Who? You have the verb is leading. Still, this sentence or this clause is subordinate clause. But is it an adjective clause or an adverb clause? Let's see. First, it is introduced by a relative pronoun who. Second of all, it modifies the noun girl. So these two features tell you that what you have here is an adjective clause. Okay? Number two, the cake that she bought was delicious. So again, it is introduced by relative pronoun that. It modifies cake. So when you ask the question, which cake? What type of cake? The cake that she bought. Since you answer this question, that means that what you have is an adjective clause. Now the second type of subordinate clauses is the adverb clause. An adverb clause is a subordinate clause that modifies a verb and an adverb or an adjective. Here, the first difference between adjective and adverb clauses is that the adverb clause is introduced by subordinating conjunction. So you can check your books for subordinating conjunctions like although, though, since, if, because, etc. So for example, when you say, I didn't call her because I am shy. Look here, because I am shy, you can't use it alone as a sentence, so it's a subordinate clause. So, is it adjective or adverb clause? Let's see. It is introduced by a subordinating conjunction because, and it answers the question why. So here, it's an adverb clause. If mom called, please tell her I will be late. If mom called, this is an adverb clause. Why? It is introduced by a subordinating conjunction if. Okay. The noun clause, which is the third type of subordinate clauses, it's a subordinate clause that is used as a noun. Noun clauses are usually introduced by one of the following words like that, whatever, whenever, whomever, whether, whoever, what, when, where, who, whom, and why. Now, because it's a noun clause, you should note that it can be used as a subject, as a predicate nominative, as a direct object, indirect object, and object of preposition. So as a subject, when you say that she worked hard for the whole term, pleased her parents. So that she worked hard for the whole term, this is the subject. The verb is pleased and the object is parents. So here, the noun clause, that she worked hard for the whole term, is a noun clause that functions as a subject. You can have a noun clause that functions as a predicate nominative, like the example here. The winner was whoever arrived at the finish line first. So, as you know, a predicate nominative, if you remember, it's the noun that comes after the linking verb and that identifies the subject. So the winner was whoever arrived at the finish line first. Whoever arrived at the finish line first is the predicate nominative. Okay? It comes after the linking verb was and it identifies the subject winner. The direct object. The child admitted that he stole the cookie. So the child admitted what? This is the direct object, right? To ask the question what in order to know the direct object. So when you say the child admitted what? Admitted that he stole the cookie. So that he stole the cookie is the direct object. And you ask the question for whom or to whom in order to know the indirect object. So let's see here. The judge will give what you said some deliberation during the decision. So the judge will give what? Some deliberation. To whom? What you said. So what you said is a noun clause that functions as an indirect object. And finally, we have the object of preposition. So when you say she is not responsible for what her brother decided to do. So as you know, the object of preposition is part of the prepositional phrase, right? And a prepositional phrase consists of a preposition, modifiers, and object of preposition, which is the first noun after the preposition. Here, for what her brother decided to do, this is a noun clause that functions as an object of preposition. Now, to recognize a noun clause, replace it with it. If the sentence makes sense, then the clause you've replaced is a noun clause. This is in case you are confused, you don't know whether this is a noun clause or not. So, in order to solve this confusion, you replace the noun clause with it. If it works and the sentence makes sense, then what you have is a noun clause. Let's try it. Why the ship sank is a mystery, okay? If you replace the noun clause, why the ship sank, with it, let's see, it is a mystery, then it's a correct sentence, it makes sense, then what you have is a noun clause. Now the second part of this chapter is the sentence structure. We have many types of sentences. The first one is the simple sentence. A simple sentence consists of one independent clause. So when I say independent clause, that means you have a subject, you have a verb, and they can function or they can stand as a sentence, yani subject, verb, and the complete thought. But be careful, sometimes you have a compound subject, sometimes you have a compound verb, sometimes you have a compound subject and a compound verb, but still what you have is a simple subject or simple sentence, sorry. So again, a simple sentence, it's one independent clause, okay? When I say independent, that means you have a subject and a verb and they can stand alone as a sentence. So for example, when you say, Jannat read the story, subject Jannat, read is the verb, the story is the object, so here you have a simple sentence, one independent clause. As I said, sometimes you have compound subject, so when you say Jannat and Sally read the story, so here you have one independent clause, okay? Sometimes you have, as I said, compound subject and a compound verb or compound predicate. So when you say, Jannat and Sally read the story and analyzed it. So here you have one simple sentence. The second type of sentences or the second sentence structure is the compound sentence. If you remember, simple sentence, one independent clause. Compound means two or more, right? So compound sentence, you have two independent clauses, okay? So these two independent clauses should be joined in order to make one sentence, right? Which we call compound sentence. How can we join these two clauses? By a comma and a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon. So, when I say coordinating conjunction, I want you to remember the fanboys. Remember? Fanboys, it is short for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So for example, when you say, I forgot my lunch, so my dad drove me to the school. I forgot my lunch, this is our first independent clause, subject, verb, complete thought. Then we have, my dad drove me to the school, second independent clause, subject dad, verb drove, and then the complement. These two clauses are joined together by a coordinating conjunction, preceded by the comma. The second way to join these sentences is to remove the comma and the coordinating conjunction and to replace them by a semicolon. So you say, I forgot my lunch, semicolon, my dad drove me to the school. Okay, these are the two ways to join the two independent clauses that make one compound sentence. So till now, simple sentence and compound sentence, we are dealing with independent clause, right? We didn't, till now, we're not dealing with subordinate clause in any kind. But in the third type of sentences, which is the complex sentence, here we will deal with the subordinate clause, which is the subject, the verb, that cannot stand alone as a sentence because they don't have a complete thought. A complex sentence consists of one independent clause and at least one subordinate clause. So here we will deal with subordinate clause, okay? So you have independent clause and subordinate clause, okay? Now the subordinate clause, as you know, it begins with words like who, whose, which, that, after, as, if, since, and when. So for example, when you say, although my friends begged me, I chose not to go to the reunion. We have an independent clause here, which is I chose not to go to the reunion. This is our independent clause. And we have our subordinate clause, which is although my friends begged me. So it's a subordinate clause. We can't use it alone as a sentence. That's why we join or we connect it to an independent clause. Okay? This is the third type, which is the complex sentence. Now, the fourth type of sentences, it's the compound complex sentence. It consists of two or more independent clauses and at least one subordinate clause. So here, again, we will deal with subordinate clause and a compound sentence. So, compound complex sentence. You will have a compound sentence, يعني two independent clauses joined together by fanboys or semicolon, and a complex sentence which includes or consists of an independent clause and a subordinate clause. So let's see an example. When I grow up, I want to be a ballerina and my mom is proud of me. So here, when I grow up, this is our subordinate clause. I want to be a ballerina and my mom is proud of me. This is a compound sentence, right? So, compound, complex, compound. I want to be a ballerina and my mom is proud of me. And then you have a subordinate clause to make it complex, which is when I grow up. Okay? So, this is the fourth type of sentence. That's it for today. Thank you for your listening.